quick stupid video about thumb drive partitioning. Thumb drives can be told to behave as removable media or fixed media over the USB protocol. Number one. Number two, what that means in plain English is if the device you plug in, it can be a thumb drive, it can be a mouse, whatever, it has a set of codes in it that tell it to behave like something and say what it is. Some of you have gotten a hold of a thumb drive that says it's a DVD or CD-ROM drive. It's not, but it will emulate one. Just the same reason that a CD-ROM can emulate a hard drive. You can actually do that. DVDs have a lot of capabilities, but they don't really do that much. One of the things that can be done with these things is also make them to where that you can start the computer off of it. It can be the start disk, as they call it in a Macintosh world, or boot. There's another bit besides the boot bit. There's one that says that it is to be treated as a hard drive, even if it's plugged into an external cable, or a non-fixed drive, a removable drive. Now, on every other system, that doesn't really change the way the computer treats it, but on a Windows computer below Windows 10, for some stupid reason that doesn't make any damn sense, it will treat it almost exactly like it's a standard hard drive that you have in your computer or on a cable, except for one characteristic. It does not want you to set it up. I mean, it'll let you make it bootable, it'll let you run an operating system on it. It's cool, but it always is missing one capability, and that is to set up multiple virtual hard drives in one thumb drive. This was an arbitrary decision, and it is stupid, and no other operating system follows the standard. And if you use a Linux machine or a Macintosh, you're allowed to say, I'd like you to chop this up into partitions so that I can have extra spaces to put things so I can organize them in file cabinets. It's not needed. Nobody would really do that in the old days because they were so small. But it is part of the standard of how it's treated, because it is treated, mostly, as a hard drive. It may be a large hard drive, but it's still treated like a floppy disk. Now, on a Windows machine, conceptually, that's very important. You can have up to a 35 megabyte floppy disk, and obviously the standard has been extended to make it almost unlimited. But it will not treat it as a true hard drive, and will not treat it as if you can have extra partitions because of something simple: being able to load up multiple operating systems. Microsoft Corporation absolutely belligerently hates it if you want to load up anything but their operating system at the same time. They don't want people being able to switch back and forth when, not if, Windows chooses to hold your computer hostage, and you might be tempted to reboot into Macintosh OS or Linux, because then you can just go in, get their backup copy of what it was doing before when it wasn't being obstinate, put it back the way it was, and reboot. They need to make sure you don't have a backup system to boot into that you might switch to avoid their bull crap. Yes, that's the real motivation behind it. But this caused a problem. Their method for punishing you was to hide the other partitions, which means somebody could just set up a malicious drive with an extra partition that absolutely works just fine, but you're not allowed to see what's on it. People got wind of that, admins got angry about it, and Microsoft Corporation finally patched Windows 10 to get rid of this. And there are patches I'm going to list links to if you want to look it up. The main thing is you can get rid of this problem by telling all the thumb drives, change that single bit to say you're removable media, but you're really a fixed media. It's a contradiction in terms, but basically just means it can be treated as a hard drive. It doesn't harm anything. Except that since it's almost never used, because no other operating system even pays attention to this archaic, stupid thing, most thumb drives you can't change that. Lexars apparently can. There's a Lexar tool for changing that. So here are the fun things and toys. You can use various software pieces to do it, to fix it. There's a Lexar USB tool, USB formatter by Lexar. There's various names for it. And then a bunch of other things that are mods, including a driver to make it to where it just ignores it like every other operating system. But the trouble is, the next person it won't work on. What happens if you do this? Well, then you can right-click the drive when you view it and tell it to format it. I understand that, but you can go into Drive Manager or Disk Manager or whatever it's called on your operating system and actually really tell it, no, I'm going to treat you like a hard drive. I'm going to set up a partition. This allows you to take the ginormous thumb drives and external media that exist and say, I want you to make a really tiny partition that's as big as possible for 32 gigabytes or something like that for FAT32. Which means you can load up older operating systems as a bootloader and then run any operating system you want to on all these extra partitions. You can multi-boot the computer and have a recovery system, which means you're not dependent on Microsoft Corporation. Because they don't want you to just start your computer, oh, it's screwed up, Windows broke again, I'll just boot into Ubuntu or maybe Mac OS off my thumb drive. Because that's where that kind of boot utility needs to be. And the only way it'll work correctly, universally between all of them, is if you have a big, fat 32 partition, but then you can't use a really big thumb drive. It wants to default to NTFS. If you chop it up this way, suddenly all the tools become available and you can make it do whatever you want to, including explicitly saying, make this bootable and not have to use some stupid tool. But that's a little too much freedom. Now, I'm not advising everybody diddle all the bits. But the fact is if you're going to do this experiment, you probably found this video for that reason. There's nothing else you can do about it except to try to do that. The utilities I'm going to link to are only going to be ones that I test myself. Not even going to list the names, but there's Hitachi microdrive and CFA disk and blah, blah, blah. There's a bunch of them. There's hundreds of them. There are people writing their own drivers. Boot, ICE, yada, 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 yada. The point is, I'm only going to link the ones that I can say didn't contain a virus and didn't break anything. I got a variety of thumb drives to test it on. But if you were wondering why you couldn't set up multiple partitions, or why you got a thumb drive you can't erase because it's locked, it's not locked. It's that Windows is playing dumb when it could easily not do this. If you flip the bit against its will, it then goes back to treating it like a normal hard drive. I'd also like to point out that this would be a great way to deny someone's access to something, because you could also set the bit on a hard drive to act like this. Yeah, that's a thing. Also, you can make it read-only and a bunch of other things. These are older pieces of the standard, mostly because it originally started off being something for those memory chips for cameras. But it is nice to know that at least it might be possible to fix this problem if you're running into it. If you get a thumb drive and it shows a very, very low capacity to what it's supposed to be, and it won't let you see the other partitions, and it won't let you erase it, this may be the reason you found this video. Hope this helps. Most of it's going to be text below in the description and links to other people who are better at this, because they've been fighting this for about 8 years now. Thanks for watching. Have a good day. Good luck with that.